From Adam's house and Gina's house and Brian's house, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, from The Doors, Robby Krieger. With Gina Grad on news and Bald Brian on sound effects. And now, according to Mayor Garcetti, he's currently experiencing homemoreness. Adam Carolla.
Too much home. Yeah, get it on. Got to get on a trip with on Monday. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing. Love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And Bald Brian.
Here we go.
I was thinking about Robby Krieger and talking to Robby Krieger from The Doors. And I had a moment in time when the Doors movie came out. I just looked it up. It was March 1991. And movies affect you. I think there's two variables, or there's two elements. One is what is the movie? How good is the movie? What's the content of the movie? And the second is, where are you in your life? Which is, sometimes you're 13 and you see, I, when I was 11, I think I probably saw Gene Wilder's The World's Greatest Lover. It was a Gene Wilder movie that people totally forgot about. And I'm sure it was bad, but I thought it was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. The World's Greatest Lover by Gene Wilder movie, circa 1976. That movie must be well under 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I saw it 5 times because I was 11 or 12 or whatever. I saw it, thought it was funny. Did you find it?
I was going to say my version of that was Opportunity Knocks with Dana Carvey when I was, I guess, 10 or 11 or 12 or whatever it was. And I was like, this is hilarious. It wasn't hilarious. It's a very marginal movie. Some might say bad, but I thought it was hilarious. I saw it probably 10 or 12 times. Right.
And I have seen it as an adult and even recently, and it's super, super dated and not very funny. Now, The World's Greatest Lover, Carol Kane, Dom DeLuise. Must have been crazy when Dom DeLuise was literally in every third movie made from 1974 to 1986.
Yeah.
And he was on Carson Weekly. He was on all the time.
People forgot how insanely prolific Dom DeLuise was because he never carried the film. He was just in it all the time. And he was on every one of those game shows, those daytime game shows anyway. So if you're in a place where you're a little vulnerable emotionally, or young or immature or something, things affect you in a greater way. And when I came across Oliver Stone's The Doors in 1991 in March, I was at a weird place in my life. Like I was 27 by this time. I'd been going at it for 7 years or so. I had kind of given myself the marching orders and or deadline that if stuff doesn't work out by the time you're 30, you're going to have to go full time on a construction site, get your contractor's license, and sort of call it a life. And it was pretty clear by 27 it wasn't working out. Like there were no indicators. It wasn't an incremental thing. Show business is a weird endeavor. By the time I got to the very end of my 10-year promise, when I was knocking on the door of turning 30, I met Jimmy, weeks before, and I had to go look it up the other day. That was in 1994. By 1995, I was hosting a huge syndicated popular national radio show.
Life comes out fast.
It happened.
Hurry up and wait.
It happens super fast. So but if you're working toward your engineering degree, or you're working toward getting certified as a welder or beautician or whatever it is, it's incremental. There's a 2-year nursing course and I'm a year and a half in, or whatever that is. In show business, when I started out, when I was about 20, when I just started to go explore show business or comedy, when I was 27, there were no signs that I was any closer 7 years into being a paid comedian or personality or raconteur, whatever. There was nothing. There was still nothing. And I remember,
you were selling out half of the first row of the Acme Theater on a consistent basis. You were packing half that first row.
That was only if he distributed leaflets outside an Italian restaurant.
Right.
Yeah, that's where Robert Blake shot his wife.
Yeah.
Is Robert Blake alive?
I think he is. Didn't he?
Yeah,
Did
I
just
think
get a
so.
drop from? Yeah. We'll look it up.
So I was, I mean, literally at the Acme Theater, we would have, he's alive?
Yeah, he's 86.
We would have these.
It sounds boring as hell, but go ahead.
That's him.
That's him.
We would have conversations at the Acme Theater where I would go, okay, it's Saturday night and there's 2 people in the audience and we're just going to cancel the show if there's 2 people. But if another person shows up and we have 3 people, then we're going to do the show.
We're going for it.
I remember doing a show once. I invited my grandparents to it. They hated it, by the way, but we always knew who was going to show up at the Acme Theater because there was no foot traffic. So every single time we'd be backstage, I'd be like, Vanessa, do you bring anyone? And she'd go, yeah, I got 4 people from work coming tonight. And then I'd go like, John McCann, what do you got? He goes, I got 3 people from work. And I was like, okay, we got 7 people. I remember once to my, I was horrified. We were like backstage. I was like, Vanessa, how'd you, my friends aren't coming tonight. I couldn't make it or whatever. John, what about you? No, I got nobody. Paul, what about, no, Bob, no. And I was like, I invited my grandparents tonight. And everyone was looking at me like, well, we don't have anyone coming. And I was like, okay, that means just my grandparents.
But they're in showbiz.
No, the only person that ever walked in off the street and wandered in to watch a show without being dragged in was Fred Willard.
That's
He's
great.
the only person
of all people.
Yeah, that's why, back in the day when he went to like the Tiki Massage Lounge or something, and there was all the kerfuffle about, wait a minute, that's a gay bar or that's a massage parlor. And he's like, I just came in, want to know what was going on. I'm the only person in Hollywood that believes it.
Yeah, that totally checks out. With my Fred Willard experience, that totally checks out.
I was there at 89 when he just wandered into the Two Roads Theater alone and asked me for a hand job. Okay.
We did the math.
So I was like 27. It wasn't working out. And I saw the Doors. And also now that I think about it, Jim Morrison died at 27. Mm-hmm. And so I guess we were the same age. Trying to figure out, it'd be interesting, Max Pata, when Jim Morrison died. I mean, not when, but like, was he literally 27 in 4 months, or was I going to turn 27 in May? Or 28. Either way, we're just sitting there. I watched a movie and I'm like moved by it. I'm like, this is, God, what a performance. This is crazy. And the Doors, I was never really a big Doors fan, but I had to kind of mature into the Doors. Mm-hmm. And because, when you're 14, you want to hear the Bay City Rollers, not the Crystal Ship. But the stuff they were doing, first things first, like I always thought of Break On Through is possibly like the first punk song. Break On Through is kind of a punk rock song from the 60s. If you play a little bit of it, Dawson, I think you guys will, especially, and we won't get all the way to the end, but when he gets to the end,
it's a short song.
That's kind of punk rock. Yeah. Let's hear a little of it.
Tried to run, tried to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah.
Had kind of a raw sound too, which I like.
We chased our pleasures here, dug our treasures there, but can you still recall the time we cried, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side.
All right, so there's that, which I always did like that song. But then there's like the Alabama song, the Whiskey Bar song, which is
yeah.
It's the opposite of pop, and it's so eclectic. I mean, when you go over, if you just take a look at their double disc Best of the Doors, there's so many hits, but there's so many crazy, weird, strange, bizarre songs. And then there were songs. One I will definitely recommend is the Crystal Ship. Let me hear a little Crystal Ship. But here I was 27, things weren't working out. I went. Now, here's so you know I was depressed. I bought a book.
Oh, wow.
I bought No One Here Gets Out Alive. That's the Doors book. And that's basically the only book I've read as an adult.
That is a huge compliment to that book.
I love the book, and I'm so, like, in my head, kind of melancholy, kind of going like, what's it all about? Is any of this going to work? And what's the plan? And I didn't have a plan. And it also, when you get older, 7 years can go by pretty quick. Like, you know, I remember when my kids were 6 years old, 7 years old, it passes quickly. From 20 to 27, that does not pass quickly. That seemed like a very long time to see if I could achieve anything that I wanted to achieve. And it was pretty clear it wasn't happening.
It's a long time, especially if you're not a professional athlete like the rest of us and just don't have much going on in your early to mid 20s. Like, it's just kind of a slog. It's fun. You got friends and you got free time and stuff, but you're not, rolling the dough and killing it at work. You're putting in the hours. God, this is such an unlikely hit and song. All right, you can pot it down, Dawson. Wow. All right. So yes, you're right. And my problem is even though I drank all the beers with all the buddies and went on road trips to Tijuana and did all the shit that seemed like fun, always in the back of my head, I had this time is running out and what the hell are you going to do clock that always stopped me from fully enjoying whatever the moment was. In that, I always knew that you could have all the fun you wanted, but there was nothing to really go home to. I didn't have a career or a real job, and I didn't have any savings. I didn't have any security. I didn't have any medical or dental, and it always kind of bumped me. And by the way, the reason I'm sitting in my home theater now, and the guys I were with are out of a job when they had to clean the AMC theaters in Burbank, and they're now all at home, not working and doing whatever they wanted to do. The reason I'm better off than they are is while everyone was partying, I had it in my head, like, yeah, but what happens when we're 30? What are we going to do when we're 30? And they're like, drink more beers and smoke more reefer. And I was like, no, we got to have a plan. And
right. So I started kind of planning, and none of them did. And that's kind of what happened to them. So let's see, Matt Zapata. So Jim Morrison was 27 and 8 months or something
7
when
months, yeah.
And 27 and 7?
Yeah.
When he passed. So if I was born May 27th, 1964, then how old was I when I watched The Doors? I'm probably the same age.
Actually,
Jim Morrison
it
was.
came out in March of 91, so you probably saw it in his theatrical run, which was March or April. So maybe before your birthday?
Yeah, I saw it before my birthday. Would have been, I saw it when it hit the theaters.
Yeah, so
now I'm trying to figure out if I was going to turn 28 or turn 27. Oh, I was going to
turn 20. You were on 64, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were to turn 27, unless my math's really bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just, I get a little confused in that sometimes. But anyway, so I sat home, I read the Doors books, I listened to the Doors, and I sort of thought a lot about Jim Morrison. I was like, he was basically the same age I was. He did so much, now he's been dead at that point, he's been dead for 21 years or something like that. But he'd done so much before he died. and I'd done so little, and we're essentially the same age, and I didn't have any catalog to leave behind, or double disc sets, or books of poetry, or
Lore.
or any. There was no lore. There was no my gravesite in France, which I've been to. I've been to Jim Morrison's grave in France.
Oh wow.
Well, that wasn't like I'm obsessed with Jim Morrison. That was more like the catacombs were near that. If anyone's
I'm just
ever
trying to
been
figure
the
out when you went to
catacombs.
France.
The catacombs. Well, I went to France to see Le Mans.
Oh,
It all adds up.
The
okay.
race.
Back on
Right.
track.
And I went to France. I did a Goodwood Festival of Speed, and then Le Mans. They're like a week apart. Back when we used to have Civilization, they were like a week apart. And so if you really wanted to do the international car thing, you'd go see Le Mans, stick around France, look around for a few days, and then go to Goodwood in England. And when we were sticking around France, we went to the catacombs, which I think with all the skulls that are buried, all the bones that are buried underneath France, and then or I should say Paris, and then somewhere the Jim Morrison grave or whatever is right up there. So we just walked over there. Anyway, so that was kind of my Doors experience, and it was just this weird pivotal time of my life when it really got kind of etched into my soul.
I'm almost positive we've done this on Rotten Tomatoes before. Would you guys like to guess what the Rotten Tomatoes score is of The Doors?
Oh God, it's got to be very high.
I clicked on it, and it was either 54 or 57. I think.
Well, come on. Are you serious?
It is.
I was going to say 90.
57%.
I don't understand that. I don't understand that.
I've actually never seen the whole thing all the way through.
Oh God, I've seen it a million times. It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Oh.
Val Kilmer deserved an Academy Award, number one. Number two, we were just speaking yesterday about movies that like maybe other people didn't like, although this isn't that, but maybe that are get low Rotten Tomatoes scores that you really like. The Doors for me.
Counts.
I love that movie. So
streaming on Amazon Prime if anyone wants to watch it.
It's not only a very interesting story, and Jim Morrison and Val Kilmer's amazing in it, but it's a real slice of SoCal in the 60s, like Venice Beach and that entire scene and that entire world.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting time in this country.
And how hot was Meg Ryan in that movie?
She was great. Everyone who was in the band was great. It was
Kyle MacLachlan, I believe.
Do you guys remember who played Robby Krieger?
Yeah.
I'm looking down at it here.
Frank Whaley.
Right. A young Frank Whaley.
I love this movie.
Frank Whaley's great.
It's a great movie. It really is great. Jim Morrison is great. Val Kilmer's great. The music is great. Everything's great. It has a little bit of like the Oliver Stone kind of, it's the American Indian that he's seeing the ghost of, and he's going to follow the naked lady. It's got a little bit of that dream catcher kind of shit that Oliver Stone puts in some of his stuff sometimes or all the times. But it still works.
But in what other scenario does it work more perfectly in than the most famous rock god to be dropping LSD and having all these esoteric conversations with himself?
Yes, and you will feel like when you're done watching it, you feel like you were high, like you feel like you dropped some peyote.
100%.
So I'll talk to Robby Krieger in a bit, but had this rush of memories as I went back to that era. And also we'll never have that again. We'll never have, I don't know, the whiskey and the Sunset Strip and records and record album covers and jackets and photos and people buying the whole record and listening to the B-side and the deep cuts. And it's all digital. It's all gone. All right. Let's see. Oh, it's so funny. I was just having this conversation with somebody 2 days ago, which is, so my kids are supposed to be in school, but school's shut down and we've lost all track of time. And it's just, the schools thing is everyone just go home and never come back. We'll figure it out. I don't know. I don't feel like that's going to be a great decision. I think if you live with your grandparents, maybe you shouldn't go to school, but I don't know if all kids not going to school for the foreseeable future is a great approach to this. But either way, my kids are home. We've lost track of time completely. They're doing school over the internet, but it takes them about an hour a day. Like they're all done before 10 in the morning. I'm not sure exactly how it's working. I really don't care, but I was talking to somebody, which I've always said, which is the school, the administrators, the teachers and everything, everyone would love to go home and just get paid in full. The biggest problem with everyone having to stay home is not getting paid. If you're getting paid in full, then I include myself in that group. Everyone would like to go home and get paid. The kids don't want to go to school. Everyone else doesn't want to be there. They want to go home and get paid. And no politician is ever going to stick their neck out and go, wait a minute, I think it's time we get back to school. So it's a perfect storm. And I was like, I said to the person I was talking to, I said, here's how you know most teachers and faculty and whatever. Here's a little indicator of how they don't like to work, but they like to get paid. And the answer is this. Whenever there's a 2-week off or Christmas vacation or Easter, whatever it is, they never come back on Monday. They always come back on Tuesday. And I always get fooled by it. It's always Sunday night, and I'm always saying to the kids, well, it's back to the salt mines tomorrow. Like Christmas is over. You know, it's the New Year's, the 1st is come and gone or whatever. Sometimes that'll screw the date up, but it's time to get back on Monday morning or the day after the 1st or whatever it is. And they always go, no, we don't come back on Monday. We come back on Tuesday, which doesn't exist in the private sector. It just doesn't. You have your vacation and you come back on the Monday. So now it's virtual schooling. And I don't know what the schedule is, but I do know it was Easter break. And today, as we record this, is the Monday after Easter break. And I, of course, said, are you guys back doing the online schooling? Like, nope. Why not? Because that doesn't start till tomorrow. And I'm like, even virtually, it doesn't start. Like, nope. And I'm like, someone needs to really sit down and explain to me. My premise is everyone wants to go home and get paid, by and large. I don't begrudge it. That's my premise. Someone needs to explain to me if there's never a work on Monday after a long layoff, doesn't that make my point? Is there any other facet where people don't go back to work after the thing? Why is it always the Monday off? Well, the Monday's off because we don't like going in. We like getting paid. And look, I know there's some good teachers out there. I never encountered any, but I know there's some good teachers out there. And I know people give me shit like, hey, these people are heroes and they're working OT and all that. And so I will acknowledge you. But I'm saying my kids don't like going to school, and I don't think their teachers want to be there any more than they do, but everyone wants to get the grade and everyone wants to get paid. And now a perfect storm has blown over
get the grade,
this concept.
Get paid.
I have to say, I'm shocked. I have a friend who is a teacher at a private school, and she's like, oh, I'm so exhausted. I go, why are you exhausted? You're home. She goes, we still have these stupid 8 a.m. Teleconference, teachers conferences every morning. And I'm like, why? She goes, I don't know. So a lot of these schools are trying to keep this semblance of a schedule, but I think that's not fair to that. I think that sucks. Why? That's just to, that seems
window dressing.
Yeah.
My buddy Carl teaches at a public school up in, I think it's in Oregon somewhere. And he teaches art. And I'm like, how's it work? He's like, oh, we do a tele-Zoom thing. I'm like, how many kids are in it? He's like, I don't know, 4. And I'm like, really? And they're like, wow. Why? And he's like, no one cares. Like, no, I teach art. Like, who cares? Like, you have to think about, not every teacher is teaching math and economics and sociology or something. There's a lot of, there's a ceramics teacher. I was a ceramics major. What the hell would Miss Tompkins be doing now? Like, you can't teach ceramics virtually from your house, or maybe you could give some sort of tutorial. But I mean, those people are all off the hook.
Yeah, the hands-on stuff must really be suffering. The art and ceramics, auto class, they still have that.
Yeah, I don't even know that anyone cares at this point if they're up and running or what wisdom or lessons they're imparting to the youth. So those people get a total fucking free pass. All right. Let's see. We got a short 35-second clip to play from Dawson's audiobook. Is that true, Dawson? Tell us about this book you're working on.
This book is the second book by a guy I already did his other audiobook. His name is R. Gary Patterson. He's a rock and roll historian. And this book is called The Walrus Was Paul, The Great Beatle Death Clues. And for the period of the last 4 Beatles records, there started this rumor on the radio in Detroit that Paul McCartney was dead. It caught on America like wildfire. And then the race to find new clues to find out who this new Paul is and are these Beatles songs real? People started really looking and overlooking into the Beatles music. And what Mr. Patterson has done with this book is he explores every single possible death clue, some that are believable, some that are insane. And then he gives you the history behind it and why people believed it could possibly be true, taking into account also the time period of the turbulent 60s. It's a really, really in-depth look at the Beatles music and honestly, the greatest hoax ever pulled on the American public, that Paul McCartney was dead.
All right.
Now, I got to this part of the audiobook, and as soon as I read this part, I knew what the audio sample I would play on this show is. I need someone else to... Kaylin, go ahead and drop that, please. Thank you. So, Mr. Patterson pulled no punches. He wrote an honest, wonderful treatise on the subject, and here's just a 35-second sample.
John Lennon and his wife Cynthia were divorced, and Lennon married Yoko Ono. John believed that marriage was not necessary, but that a happening could result from their marriage. John's experimentation with the avant-garde continued, with his recordings made with Yoko. Long tracks of her screaming vocals, accompanied only by John's electric guitar, feeding back in equally frenzied tones, led Rolling Stone to suggest that the new sounds were like a severely retarded child being tortured.
That was from Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh my.
Somebody
else was smart back then too.
Somebody sent a funny tweet, which was as a picture of like Yoko doing like an outdoor concert in the middle of like Manhattan, and it sort of read, keeping people sheltered in their units. I don't remember what it read exactly, but it was spot on.
Well, the super cool thing about this audiobook now and being stuck at home with the quarantine is we have the internet and all of the album covers, all of the Beatles music. It's all available online, even if you don't have the records yourself. You can listen to this audiobook and go through a piece of history and actually verify all of these clues. Like, oh my God, holy smokes. That's, Paul is holding a cigarette in his right hand. Paul's left-handed. On the cover of Abbey Road. That was one of the clues. Paul's barefoot. Part of the book goes through that entire Abbey Road photo shoot, and it's fascinating stuff.
Well, I just got done doing a audiobook session with engineer Dawson, and he is just fantastic at that job. Boy, it's not just about the engineering. It's about the inflection and the reeds and so much stuff in there. So, Dawson's you're engineering the audiobook game is next level at this point. And
thank you.
And a real important part of doing an audiobook, at least for me. So my book is coming out soon. I think we bumped it to June 16th, as I recall, but you can go pre-order it at Amazon if you'd like an audiobook as well. All right. Thanks, Dawson. And Yoko Ono sings on city streets to ensure NY residents stay inside.
It's great.
Nice.
You got to wonder, like, the thing I always wonder about everyone is, does any of it ever penetrate? Like, does Yoko Ono see it, and like, what does she think? And then why does that, I'm up. I sort of have this mild obsession with, it's like, Ozzy wanted to come back and work for me because he can't work for anybody because he doesn't work. You know what I mean? He's not a good worker. So nobody will hire him. And eventually the word gets out and you get no repeat business. And he threw himself on the mercy of my court a few months ago. And I just had I said, let's just take a walk. And we took a walk and I kept saying to him, I will hire you, Ozzy. I will. I don't want to, but I'll do it because we've known each other for a long time. And I know you're down on your luck. And then I kept saying, but you have to work. You have to work. Do you understand me? Like, if you don't work, I'm not going to continue to employ you. You have to work. You understand? And he's like, yeah. And I kept going, I'm not shitting you, Ozzy. If you come back and you do what you normally do, I will fire you. So I will hire you. You're desperate, but you must work. And I just thought, I don't know if someone kept saying that to me.
Yeah,
wouldn't it feel weird? Like,
Pretty,
how would I process? Like, why aren't you processing? Again, like we always say, like, hey, Bob, movie starts at 8. I got you. I'll see you at the theater. But not 8:10. Not 8:10, Bob.
8 means 8.
8 means 8.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'll see you. You probably want to leave at 7:30 just to make sure. Like, when people talk to you that way or make jokes about you clearing the city out with your singing, does it penetrate? Like, do you process it? Like,
Well,
why? I know everyone thinks everyone else is an asshole for talking to them that way, but
no.
why doesn't it penetrate a little more?
In Yoko Ono's case, I'm imagining that she can hide behind the veil of artistry, where it's like, well, people just don't understand. They don't understand what I'm trying to do. For the Aussies of the world or anyone else, that's a rare glimpse into how people really feel about you, and that's honestly kind of a gift. You know what I mean? Like, someone is being very honest with how the world views you, and you should probably ingest that at age whatever he is, 55 or 60 years old.
Yeah, Yoko can say, well, nobody understands me, but can Ozzy say that? Well, technically he might be able to.
Technically he can, yeah, that's right.
Now, the beauty of Yoko, and this is the only reason
Wag is maram billionario, Meng.
You don't understand him, man.
This is the only reason I'd like to have a technology where we could reanimate people is because I know Yoko, she feels like she's going to go the direction of like Vincent van Gogh or something. Like, I will be appreciated long after I'm dead. I don't know if Van Gogh was fully appreciated during his life, but there's many artists that go, and maybe it's Van Gogh. There's a million other examples. Like, someday when the history books are written, I will be vindicated. My music will hang in the halls of the Louvre and blah, blah, blah. And all I want to do is get the technology to reanimate her in 100 years and go, hey, bitch, your stuff still sucks as much today as it ever did when you're doing it.
You wouldn't bring back Steve Jobs or someone who's before their time
because there's no vengeance with Steve Jobs.
No, that's the whole point. I want to reanimate Yoko Ono, and I go, you know what? The year is, sweetheart, it's 2140, and your music sucks every bit as it did, much as it did 150 years ago. Right. All right, let me hit Omaha Steaks, and we'll do a little news. You stuck in? Well, stock up, people. Omaha Steaks, man. A lot of people having trouble getting the good protein, getting the beef out there. Not with Omaha Steaks. They deliver the world's best steaks and a huge variety of family favorites as well without leaving your home. And right now, for a limited time, they have a stock-up sale. Just for my listeners, you go to omahasteaks.com, enter Adam into the search bar, and unlock unique savings for my listeners. It's guaranteed quality and safety as well in every order. Stock up on what you need, and don't forget the other food items you love. We eat it here almost every night. Olga just made some great steak. and some chimichurri sauce. There's a nod
Ooh,
to
yeah.
Ozzy. So enjoy it, man, and save a whole bunch. You can go to there's a whole boxes. You can enter Adam in the search bar and save up to 50% on your order and free shipping over $69. People are in. We got to get the protein. Go with Omaha, right, Dawson?
We love Omaha Steaks and our fans so much that we're giving away 10 boxes to the first 10 people who tweet us a picture of their Omaha Steaks receipt using the code Adam so that you can gift a box to your family or friends completely on us. That's right. Tweet a picture of your receipt using the code Adam, and the Ace Man himself will send your loved one an entire box of premium Omaha Steaks. Again, never been a better time to stock up on Omaha Steaks. Stock up sale is going on right now with ready-to-ship packages. Save 50% or more on plus free shipping on orders of $69 or more. That's omahasteaks.com. Type Adam in the search bar.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with Bald and Gina and the news right after this.
Grad, breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina. Grad, trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drug meltdowns. Need news with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, it's not the biggest shock ever that we have a new TV show host that has come down with coronavirus, because we knew that his wife had already come down with it, which was Ali Wentworth. George Stephanopoulos from Good Morning America has now revealed that he's tested positive for coronavirus. He says he feels good. He's not experienced any symptoms, and he will continue to work from home. He also added that his wife is recovering and has been fever-free for 5 days. He assumed that
I knew Ali from, as you guys know, from the Groundlings million years ago. I mean, she must have been at the Groundlings the same time I was at the Groundlings. And I don't know, did she get hit hard? I didn't hear her story.
She got hit. I mean, like it says, she's been fever-free for 5 days. So it sounds like she got the typical symptoms, but I didn't hear any news that, she did. I didn't hear that she'd gone to ICU or anything. She just went down with it.
So he's positive, but he's asymptomatic.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot more of that. Also, you have to understand that when people are talking, like when they share their stories, they go, oh, it felt like a 200-pound man was sitting on my chest. I was obliterated or whatever. But if you think about every story I've ever told about having the flu, it's been like, oh, it was brutal. I couldn't sit up. I literally crawled to the bathroom and like that kind of stuff. And so the descriptions, which sound horrific for most people or a lot of people, if you picture yourself describing your worst flu or food poisoning or some version of that, probably sounds the same. Like I think about, last time I had the flu really badly was probably as 2 years into Jimmy starting his new show. And Lynette was in Vegas, like a girls' weekend. And I was literally audibly groaning and laying in bed and like trying to negotiate opening a can of soup. And it was like it was brutal. And if I described it to you, it would sound horrific. But if I described it to you and I said it was the flu, you wouldn't be nearly as scared as if I said it was something else, because it was a horrific description. So she's on the mend and he has it. Now, I wonder if we'll find out, then we're going to find out like if it ever shows up with him, or does he get on something, or does he just quarantine? Like, so if you're positive and people say, I guess you could have it for 2 weeks before the symptoms pop up, does he do something about it?
Maybe I'm naive. Number one, how does he get a test if he's asymptomatic? I guess maybe because his wife had it. But either way, that's neither here nor there. He got the test and he's got it. Number two, I think I've been reading up on it, and I read that the hospitals will, for the most part, send you home to self-quarantine if you don't have symptoms. You know what I mean? If you're not experiencing shortness of breath or fever or whatever, like they're not going to accept you and treat you. They're going to send you home and say, come back if you get really sick. I think that's what I've read.
Gina's having a situation with a family member who's requiring some hospitalization and not connected to coronavirus, but so she's having to put us on hold for a moment and deal with some urgent family business. So Brian and I will cover during that period of time.
We'll make it happen.
Allie Wentworth, I'm probably met at the Groundlings in the later 80s.
I don't know her.
She's an interesting personality.
Sorry for that great contribution.
Yeah.
I realized as I said, I'm like, oh, they really added a lot.
No. It's interesting that you brought that up. Nothing interesting about you or helpful, but what I'm saying is she's interesting in that there used to be celebrities back in the day when I would watch, game shows, or I would watch the Gong Show, and it'd be like J.P. Morgan or P.J. Morgan or whoever they were. They're a bunch of females, and you go, I don't know what they do other than their personalities. They're not really stand-ups. You don't really know them from an acting gig. They're just kind of personalities, and sometimes they're married to someone who's famous as well.
Yeah.
So
Would
Allie
Chara
Wentworth is
fall
sort
in
of that.
group?
Well, Charo.
How far are Allie and Charo on the personality scale?
Charo played music and was this crazy personality, Gucci, and all this stuff.
Right.
But I think she played a serious flamenco guitar.
Oh, the flamenco?
Flamenco guitar. Yes, I think she was quite an accomplished player.
That got lost in the annals of history.
She was all like tits and hair. Like if Gina could play the guitar.
Hold on.
Yes.
Okay.
But like,
Oh, sure. Well, I'm putting it back.
competently. Yes. I don't know if I did match game with Allie Wentworth. I don't know what her claim to fame is, other than in a weird way, it's a bigger feather in your cap just to be a personality and not known from this series or that series,
Right.
like literally she's just known.
But has that badge of honor gone away with the advent of reality shows? Like when Allie Wentworth was Allie Wentworth, yeah, but like, you know what I'm saying? Or Chara or whoever. Like now that it's reality shows, it's like, oh boy.
Probably.
Wait, sorry, you may have said this already, but wasn't Allie Wentworth on Living Color?
I'm looking at it now. Yes, in Living Color, and Jerry Maguire, Office Space. I mean, it's not like she didn't do any. It's not like, oh, she worked at the Albertsons and now she's famous. Or we know, like, her name from something. It's not, I don't know, Lena Dunham, or you go, Lena Dunham. She did Girls. Like you just know her from that stuff. Chris Maxipata, can you find Charo playing serious guitar? And I could be just making that up from an episode of Love Boat, but I feel like she did. She wasn't all hoochie coochie. She could play, I think. All right. Anyway, sorry. What else you got, Gina?
Well, I know your kids were on board with Friends. I know everybody was sort of interested in this Friends reunion, but it's possibly not going to happen right now. This is the quote unquote news from Deadline. It's one of two things. They're either secretly taping it via Zoom, or it's just not happening until the quarantine over. So I'm not sure what the news is, but last month, HBO postponed taping that one-time special. An alternative date for next month now seems out of the question. Therefore, the reunion with all 6 actors won't be available when the HBO Max launches. That was the big deal, that they were launching the 236 episodes of Friends. But an unnamed insider claimed that Courtney Cox arranged a Zoom meeting for all the co-stars. Almost weekly, the 6 actors have discussed and brainstormed how they're going to do this. And according to the source, their Zoom sessions have been brilliant fun. There's some hilarious material.
I got it. All right, hold on a second. Those guys have already made the GDP of a medium-sized nation off this show. If they make another cool $2 million a pop and they're fucking sitting in their sweatpants at home with Zoom, I'm gonna go ballistic. Like, this drives me insane. How much money can somebody make off of one goddamn franchise, and now from home?
Yeah.
At this point. Oh,
Chris, sweet gig.
Chris has Charo playing the guitar. Let's see if
Oh,
that's really,
goody.
if she's really accomplished at it. That's her, right?
Yeah. Aboard the Disney Magic.
Tune it.
Yeah, so she was accomplished. She just was all tits and hair and coochie coochie, and kind of interestingly hid her talent. And you can pause it. It's kind of interesting. We have pretty short memories. We don't have a lot of space on our hard drive to explore the nuances of everybody. And so if you present yourself as hoochie coochie girl with the big tits and the hair, then I guess that's how we're going to remember Chara. But she was probably great and is a great guitar player as well.
The one exception, the clock that's right twice a day, Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Plays multiple instruments, wrote a million hits. So, Adam, I don't know if you heard about these dudes, but I'd be surprised if you didn't. A nearly nationwide lockdown has decreased traffic congestion by at least 50%. That's nationwide. And in some cities by more than 90%. And the situation is ripe for record-setting attempts at driving across the country, which these guys did. Last week.
Cannonball Run.
Yep.
Let me see. I
They
think
went
they were
full Cannonball Run.
driving an Audi A8, so Mike
Correct.
August told me.
Correct.
And I guess it was 4 guys, and I guess they did it in 26:40 something.
They did. They broke the last record by like 45 minutes.
Right.
And raced from from Manhattan to the Redondo Beach Pier, essentially.
Okay.
Here in
Many
Southern
questions.
California.
Why Redondo Beach? Why not Manhattan to Manhattan Beach? Why Redondo Beach? That's an odd place to drive to.
Somebody started this a million years ago. And I don't know if it had anything to do with Hal Needham or Hal Needham just made the movie. Hal Needham would make all those Burt Reynolds movies. Hal Needham was a stunt coordinator who just kind of said, oh, fuck it. I'll be a stunt coordinator long enough, but he probably just saw how these movies were being made. Like everyone was just high on cocaine and doing what they wanted. And he was like, well, fuck it. I'll make movies. And so Hal Needham started making all these Cannonball Run movies and like Smoking the Bandit movies, and probably did like The Stuntman and stuff like that. And he didn't really have much of a script. He would just kind of hire, Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise and stuff and tell them to have at it.
Would you really need one? You
And
have 2 girls in latex bodysuits and Burt Reynolds. What do you need?
Yeah, driving a Countach. So he would kind of preside over this stuff, and I think he may have had something to do with the founding of the Cannonball Run. But if you watch the first Cannonball Run movie from probably 77 or something, that just kind of lays it out. They just start in a warehouse in Manhattan and they drive to the pier.
Yeah.
And
guess how long?
1981, is that the first Cannonball? Yeah. And I guess they take the cars and they outfit them with auxiliary fuel tanks so they can
we have a picture. It's literally just, it looks like those big red plastic gas cans just lining their trunk. So
interesting.
I was going to ask you how that works. Is that just for storage, or is that actually feeding into the car?
It looks like it's feeding into the car, but I couldn't tell you for sure. And I guess there's like a sanctioning body, and they go for it. Now, the thing is, there's no traffic, but the cops are out in full effect. I mean, the cops are still out there writing tickets and going berserk.
Especially with crime down, 34% in a lot of areas. So these guys, guess how long, you might already know this, but guess how long it's supposed to take to drive from Manhattan to Redondo if you didn't stop and, stay in a motel a couple of days or whatever.
I don't know. Yeah, tell us. How long?
42 hours. driving with the posted speed limit, but they averaged 105. So they made it in 2638. And they, in California last month, apparently we wrote more than 500 citations for driving excess of 100 miles an hour. The most common response for people pulled over in the pandemic is, I thought cops weren't stopping people right now.
Well, it's funny. There's like nobody on the freeways, and the cops are putting this stuff out there where it's like, we're still writing tickets. It's still dangerous. You know, I think people are going like 30% faster and whatever it is.
Well, and I told you
Yeah.
they're cycling through more red lights now.
Oh, good.
I mean, no, bad.
Well, let me say
And
this.
There's more of them.
Here's what I would say to LA. You guys have done a piss poor job of managing traffic if you've managed it at all in my lifetime. And I have been subject to, you know, hour 20-minute commutes from like here to Century City or here to Santa Monica or here taking meetings and whatever. It is brutal, and it is not managed in any intelligent way at all. This has gone on for my entire adult life, and it will go on for the foreseeable future. There's one fucking window here. Could be 5 weeks, could be 9 weeks, could be 11 weeks. I don't know what it is, but it's a very small window where we can travel at a decent clip.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just give it to us?
Let us have this.
I'm not driving around seeing cars on fire and rolled over and wrecks or anything. People are just going about their business. They're just doing it at a little faster clip. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
nothing inherently dangerous. There's nobody on the fucking freeway.
And that's what you say. We should be able to drive at a speed that is safe for our circumstances. Is there a wall of water coming at us? No. Is there, nothing. For our circumstances, having 5 cars on the road as opposed to 500, we are driving safe for our circumstances.
Agreed. But they're never going to. Again, everything, just be careful. Be careful about the umbrella of safety and how broad that umbrella of safety can be, and about people doing things in the name of safety. They never talk about we need to raise revenues or we still need to collect money. It's like, it is unsafe to drive and be safe. 55, arrive alive. What the fuck? Click it or ticket, like everything in the name of safety. But is it all in the name of safety? And as we get safer as a culture and as a society, it just keeps growing. This umbrella of safety, everyone falls in it. When you start having kids and the kids like, well, the kids shouldn't come in at this time or they have to be dropped. That's like rules, safety. And then when you factor kids in, it becomes on steroids now. Now it's like super safety, super kids, super rules. And that's okay to a point. But at some point, if you're just pulling out of your driveway and you're literally just going to the corner to do something and come back around, you should kind of be able to decide whether your seatbelt is on or if your kid is buckled down 10 ways to Sunday in a child seat. Like, at some point, we're going to have to be in charge of ourselves a little bit, and be careful about the safety umbrella expanding, because it's going to keep expanding. And it's like, everyone thinks, all right, self-quarantine or self-distance and all that kind of stuff, fine. But when you start hearing about, in Michigan, they're pulling over people that are driving and fining them for not wearing a mask in their car, like alone. You know what I mean? It's like, be careful, everybody. It's a slippery safety slope, and it just keeps broadening. Yes,
it's
Brent.
diabolical, because as long as you couch it as safety, nobody can disagree with it. You know what I mean? You have the moral high. You start with the moral high ground.
Well, see, it's an interesting thing that I was talking actually to Dr. Drew about earlier today, which is, I understand this safety expansion concept vis-a-vis the government and the city and the powers that be, because I've always built. And if you build, you have to pull permits. And every year, there's a new set of rules that comes in under the umbrella of safety, and it starts getting ludicrous at a certain point. You're like, are you nuts? That's insane what you guys are suggesting. Like, hey, man, we're an earthquake country. You know what I mean? So it's safety. Now, every single one, building and safety. The fucking name is in the title. Building and Safety Department. The rules start off as, reasonable rules that have to do with construction and engineering. At a certain point, they start going so fucking far off the rails that is no longer about safety. It's about more rules and more regulation. And if you study building and safety and you see what they had in place in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it's now at the point, I was just working on a project. It is insane overkill what they're asking for now in the name of safety. Right. So just be careful because it keeps going.
All you ever had to tell us was that they made you put a fence around a tree that's nowhere near your house. That's pretty much the only example we need.
The fucking tree was up on the side of the hill. A billy goat couldn't get there. And at a certain point, I just said, all right, how about some of that orange mesh plastic shit that I'll put up on some steaks or whatever? No, chain link. It needs to be chain link. I was like, you have to rent a chain link? You know how expensive it is? Hey, it's got to go. And by the way, it's not, or you could appeal it to our supervisor. It's like, you want your permit? Because you're not going to build on your own. You will not build on your own fucking property. We will shut you down if you do not comply. There's a safety, or there's I don't know, the oak. Is it endangered species or something? There's more oak trees per capita where I live than any other place on the planet. I don't know how it works. There's a city called
Thousand Oaks, California.
I know. I'm the mayor of Million Oaks, California, where I live. If I walk from my house, I literally took a walk from my house to Mark Garrigas's house the other day. I was with my sister. We just took a walk around the neighborhood. At some point, I kept commenting that some streets have so many oak trees that there's a full canopy. It's like walking through a tunnel. Yep. Like you just don't even see daylight. But no, the answer is I must put chain link fences around all the oak trees on my property, or they will not, in the name of I don't know what. But the point is be careful, everybody. It doesn't, none of it falls under the heading of because we want more control and we want more money. It all falls under the heading of safety.
Right.
And then the rules come in. And nobody disagrees about safety. I do. I do think there's a point when you can start doing more harm than good under the umbrella of safety. All right, Gina, let's do one more, please.
All right. Well, I have the perfect one because I can imagine a lot of people are going through this. There's a new survey that since everyone's stuck at home and couples are together and, couples are both working from home, a survey discovered that before the pandemic, half of working adults were clueless as to what their partner really does for a living. Now that we're all stuck at home, they're beginning to kind of learn, kind of suss it out. A survey spokesperson said, quote, "It's funny how many people knew so little about what the other half does for a living. Suddenly we're spending working hours and downtime in the same space. It's sure to be a learning curve for everyone, whether about job roles themselves or their partner's personality. Beforehand, we had just a vague notion of what the other person did from, in working hours. For example, they have a lot of meetings or they're in an office, were the most common responses to what does your partner do for work?"
Well, let's see. I've gleaned waves to the Grubhub guy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a gig or?
Oh, is that on the clock?
Hello and goodbye.
Brian, do you have that? Joel McHale just reminded me that I went on that epic rant about the city and earthquake country and all that with Joel McHale. But Joel McHale was just on yesterday, and Joel McHale never did build the pool in his house. Joel McHale just moved at a certain point. Yeah. But do we have that rant? It made me
I do
think
not.
about-
We could maybe dig that up. Gio probably has that at his disposal. But
Oh, I'm
that was
trying to-
actually fun fact. That was one of the drops. You screaming nothing that was lost when some drops were mysteriously deleted from my computer over the holiday break. It's at KLSX.
At KLSX.
Ooh.
You know what was the weirdest thing as you look back on those KLSX days is how incredibly difficult it is to basically launch a morning show in a major market,
Mhm.
and how we were ostensibly doing battle with the program director and the show that came after us, and a constant it's like basically like saying, we need you to run a marathon in under 2.5 hours. And you're like, okay, that's going to be tough. And then someone went, but there's a guy, he's a coach, and he's here to help. And he went, okay, because I'm going to need all the help I get to run this marathon in under 2.5 hours. And that guy took an ashtray filled with sand and just dumped it down your fucking shorts and said, okay, take off, run like the wind. And you went, what? I thought you were here to train me or help me or aid me or something. No, I just dumped an ashtray filled with fucking sand and cigarette butts down your fucking underpants and then told you to get and smacked you on the ass. That's what essentially it was like doing a radio show with Jack Silver and Frosty hiding Frank after us, and Down syndrome dog or death dog.
Death dog.
All the people in the fucking building. It was.
You're saying there wasn't strong organizational support?
No, it was fucking hobbled by.
We're being sniped at every turn. It was ridiculous.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We will try to run that crazy rant down, and we'll play it for you guys tomorrow. All right, Gina, let's bring it home.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Well, let's not forget about Geico. You have homeowners insurance, you have renters insurance. You want to bundle, well, then you bundle with Geico. You can take your homeowners or your renters insurance and put them together with your auto insurance at Geico and see just how much money you could be saving at Geico. That is geico.com. Get your bundle on at Geico. Geico.com. All right, Robby Krieger from The Doors, one-on-one, a deep dive into his business. We'll do that right after this. That is called Slide Home. The ritual begins at sundown. That's the name of the new album. It'll be available. It's been bumped back a little because of this whole situation. It's Robby Krieger's last and latest album. I shouldn't say last, but latest album. And we will, I'll tell you some dates. It's coming out. It'll be available August 14th. And you can, it's going to be released August 14th. Good to see you, Robby Krieger.
Yeah, you too, man.
I was reading down, I know all about The Doors, and I'm a big fan of the band and yourself. I didn't know you were from Los Angeles. I didn't know your dad was from Los Angeles. You like live in the Glendale area, like where I probably drive past your house on my way to work every day.
Well, actually, no, my studio's in Glendale, but I grew up like in the Palisades, Pacific Palisades.
Oh, but you're a Los Angelino, and your parents were out here too, right?
Yeah. Well, my mom's from Iowa, but she met my dad out here at USC or somewhere like that. And yeah, my dad grew up in Long Beach.
Yeah, so I'm one of the few people who's also from here. So he said, you, me, and Dr. Drew are the only people I know who are from here. Well, in show business, because it's when you're in show business, everyone comes here from somewhere else.
Yeah, not even in show business, from all businesses, it seems like. That's why the homeless people like it out here. It's the weather, man. It's so nice.
So you grow up in SoCal, you start a band called The Doors, or you're part of The Doors, in 1965 is when you guys come together. You're 19 at that point?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
By the way, it's funny because 19 used to seem old enough. Now it seems like you're 9, right? Like guys used to go fight wars and start bands and stuff. I mean, think about the stuff you did at 19 versus what my kids are going to do at 19.
Well, in a way, though, it's the opposite, because like nowadays I see these kids online playing guitar when they're like 5, 3, 4, 5 years old, and they're shredding, man. And like I didn't start till I was 14. I wish I started when I was 5 years old.
Did you start playing the piano, I believe?
Yeah, I played trumpet a little bit and piano, but not seriously. But
so I don't want to make this whole interview about like what was Jim Morrison like, but I saw the movie. I love the movie. I read the book. I love the book. It's one of the few books I've read in my entire life. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. But when you saw the movie and when you read the book, what were your feelings?
Oh gosh, well, I knew the guy that wrote the book, Danny Sugarman. He was kind of he was started off as our press agent when he was like 15 years old. He was just a big fan, So he kind of embellished that book a little bit. Kind of, he put Jim's words in his own mouth. Kind of, Jim didn't really talk like that. That's how Danny would talk. So but the overall it was a pretty good book, but it I would have done a little different. In fact, I'm writing one right now.
When can we look forward to that coming out?
Hopefully by the end of the year.
So we'll look forward to that. We'll have you back when it comes out. So for you, in the movie, the Oliver Stone movie, what was your general take on that?
Well, I was I was on the set quite a bit, and I just wanted to make sure that the musical parts were correct, which they were. I mean, Oliver Stone did a great job, I think, in the concert footage, and Val Kilmer was amazing. He sang like 90% of the stuff himself.
Yeah, he should have won an Academy Award for that.
Oh, yeah,
he just was Jim Morrison in that movie to me. But was he Jim Morrison to you?
Yes, on the set, he wanted everybody to call him Jim, and we did. And it was just almost like having Jim there.
Was it kind of surreal for you? I mean, bizarre at least?
It was. Especially having a guy playing me right there. And, I had to teach the guy how to play the guitar and stuff. It was pretty funny.
And teach him, I'm guessing, to teach him to play like you as well. I mean, he couldn't play like you, but what I mean is like how you would do it.
Yeah, I showed him the proper positions, hand positions and stuff. He wasn't really playing, but he faked it pretty well. Frank Whaley.
Yeah, no, he was great. Everyone was really satisfying in that movie. But
yeah, the only problem I had with it was that it really didn't show the true dynamic between the four of us. You know what I mean? It was mostly about Jim and his, craziness, and which is, fine for a Hollywood movie. But I'm trying to get another movie made right now about the early days of the Doors. Just up until Light My Fire hits, and then what I mean.
Well, how long was everyone together? How long did the Doors exist before Light My Fire sort of blew up?
Probably 2 years.
and that's you guys playing around SoCal, Sunset Strip, and all
Right.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Was
Yeah.
there? Did you guys go on the road back then, or was it all Sunset Strip kind of stuff?
Before Light My Fire,
Yeah.
it was pretty much LA. We might have gone to San Francisco a couple times, maybe Phoenix, but yeah, that was about it.
How would you guys draw at like Gazzari's or the Whiskey or some place like that pre-Light My Fire?
It kind of got better and better. When we started out, we played at a place called the London Fog, which was right down the street from the Whiskey, just west of the Whiskey. And, the reason we got the gig is we tried out one night, and we had all of our friends from like UCLA and stuff come down. So it was packed, it was packed. The guy said, "Oh man, this is amazing. Okay, you guys have the job, right?" The next night, there's 5 people there. And then it slowly got better and better, and pretty soon it was pretty full. And then we went to the Whiskey, and we became like the house band at the Whiskey.
Right.
So that was really cool because we got to play with a lot of our heroes and stuff. And
yeah, who was named some of the guys and gals and bands you would have been playing with back then?
Well, the first one was Van Morrison and Them.
Right.
Remember, his first band was called Them. They had Gloria and all that stuff. And that was pretty cool. We got to all play Gloria on stage together the last night.
Yeah, which you guys covered Gloria, right?
Yeah, we did. We used to play it all the time.
So Van Morrison, who else?
Oh gosh, Buffalo Springfield, Turtles. Let's see, Otis Redding. A lot of people.
Is there somebody or some band that you think was forgotten a little bit or maybe underrated? Like sometimes people say to me, "Well, what do you think?" And I go, "Well, the Hollies were one of those bands that had tons of good songs and hits and things like that, but you may not remember them, or you may not know they sung all those songs."
Well, our heroes was Love, Arthur Lee and Love. Before we played at the Whiskey, they were the big band at the Whiskey, and everywhere else in LA. They played all over, and we used to have to sneak in to watch them because we weren't 21 yet. But they were kind of our heroes, and they helped us get signed to Elektra Records even.
How old was everybody when you first came together? You were 19. What about Ray? And Jim
I was the youngest. Jim was maybe 21. John was a year older than me. He would have been 20, and Ray was a little older. He was like 28.
And so we'll hop all over the place, but according to the math, when Jim Morrison died in France, in Paris, you were 25, right, or thereabouts?
Yeah, that sounds right.
What was? It's a very, when I was 25, I was doing nothing. I hadn't begun anything in life. For you, it was like you'd had this whole career, all these hits, all this music, all this touring, and you're 25. What was your sort of reaction to that, or what was your thought on it?
That's a good question. I mean, I didn't think to myself, "Oh shit, he's dead. Life is over." But I was kind of amazed it lasted as long as it did. Because Jim was so crazy, and you never knew what he was going to do the next day. You know what I'm saying? So it was really amazing that we pumped out 6 albums during that time.
Did he seem crazy, erratic, eccentric? Like, how would you describe him? And then what would his diagnosis be if he was a kid today?
Probably bipolar, maybe manic depression, something like that. Most of the time he was great. He was fine. Like when he was just doing acid or marijuana or being straight, he was the greatest guy you ever want to meet. Just the nicest guy, most polite. He came from the South, so he had really good manners. He could charm the ass out of anybody, including your mother. But when he started getting back into liquor, that's what brought the bad side out, and we called that Jimbo. Jimbo's here! Look out!
Was you talk about your mother and her parents? It was always interesting to me that he said his dad or parents were dead. His dad, I think, was a rear admiral for the Navy.
Yeah,
Was there any? You ever have a discussion with him about that? Did you ever meet his parents? Did they ever come to a show? Was there any?
Yeah, I have.
There?
His mother came to one show. I lost you.
Well, that's all right. I can still hear you.
Can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you, and that's the main thing I'm interested in. So you can convey the story.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. So
now I see you.
Okay, that's better. Okay. All right. So yeah. One time we were back in Virginia doing a show, and Jim's mother shows up, kind of unannounced, and
backstage.
Backstage, and Jim wouldn't see her. He says,
Really?
keep her away, don't let her in, and she was real bitchy, man. She was going, well, these lights aren't right for my son. I mean, I should have better lighting at this place. She was real kind of bossy, and I don't know what he saw in her, but he was definitely obsessed with her.
Well, so Jim, you're saying that Jim was obsessed with his mother?
Yeah, he had what you call a Oedipus complex.
Well, I think that was spelled out in the end, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So wait a minute. This is interesting to me. So Jim's dad's a rear admiral. I mean, that's a pretty straight-laced gig, right?
Yeah, he actually fired the first shot at the Gulf of Tonkin.
Really? Vietnam.
His boat was took the first shot.
So in the Vietnam War, so everyone was about protesting the Vietnam War, of course, back then, especially. And his mom, who was married to the rear admiral, was a little bit of a, I don't know, control freak, perfectionist or something.
That's what it seemed like that night. I hadn't met her before that. It was kind of weird, but I wondered why Jim. I just figured that the reason he said his parents were dead was because he didn't want to embarrass them. He knew they were very straight-laced Southern, people, Navy people, and he probably didn't. He knew that he was going to be kind of out there doing crazy stuff, and he didn't want them to have to be associated with him.
Yeah, but then the whole.
That's what it was. I really don't know why he said they were dead. I mean, he could have just said.
But when you say obsessed with his mom, did he talk about her a lot? And
well, all his girlfriends kind of looked like her. He loved her red hair, like his mom had. When he would be on acid, he told me that he would see his mother's face in the moon. When he would look at the moon, he'd see his mother's face.
It's a bizarre, complex relationship to have.
Well, I mean, it's, if you've read Freud, it's really not. It's, according to Freud, every kid really is in love with his mother and is totally jealous of his father and wants to kill him. Right. So that's where the end came from. Mother, I want to, and father, I want to kill you.
Yeah.
But in his case, he really felt that. He, you know, in most cases, it's buried underneath, and people don't ever realize that they have that Oedipus complex. But with him, it was right on the surface. I never met anybody like that.
Did when he would go off on these crazy tangents, for lack of a better, I don't want to call him a crazy tangent, when he'd go off in this direction, did you ever sort of think, you know, reel it in, let's kind of stay in our lane, we want to make some music and sell some units, this will never be played on the radio, like, how can we do this? Like, come back and join us over here in the world of the sane.
Are you talking musically?
Yeah, like, or were you all in?
No, we were all in. You know, we thought it was the coolest thing in the world, the end, and how that, you know, came out. You know, to us, it was art, you know. And, you know, the bad part was that, you know, he had this self-destructive thing going on where it threatened to ruin the band at any moment, you know. So it was very hard to deal with.
So much.
For instance,
yeah, go ahead.
The night we actually recorded the end, he had taken so much acid that after working all day, and we got the end, we only did 2 takes really, and then they cut them together to make 1 take. But so we're all ready to go home, you know, and Jim goes, "No, come on, let's keep going, man, you know, I'm just feeling good, you know." And we were all fucking wasted, you know. So we says, "Okay, all right, Jim, come on, man, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll start again." So we all left. Jim left, and then later that night he came back. He broke into the studio and hosed the whole place down with fire retardant, and just made a big mess, and should have gone to jail really, but the guy from Electric didn't press charges, and somehow kept the whole thing quiet, you know.
Did he ruin the tape or the takes from that day?
Not the tapes, luckily. He ruined the harpsichord. He sprayed down the mixing console, you know, just a lot of bad stuff.
So did you know how important what you were doing, or how groundbreaking what you were doing was when you were doing it?
Yeah, and so did Elektra, and that's for the reason why they let him get away with that shit, you know.
Is when he went off to, I only know, well, I read the book and I know the movie version of it. When he went off to Paris, was there the thought of he's going to come back and we're going to continue to be the Doors? Is that, or even if it was said, did you feel that?
It wasn't said especially, but I definitely planned on it, you know. You know, I knew Jim. I knew that he lived to be on stage, and, you know, once he came back, there was nothing else that would have happened, but we would have continued. And we just had finished one of their best albums ever and most fun albums, LA Woman. So, you know, he would have come back. Yeah.
You said he lived to be on stage, but, you know, in the movie, he famously turned his back to the audience. Did he do that at the beginning in real life?
Yeah. In the beginning, he was super shy, and you know, he didn't really want to be, well, he must have wanted to be on stage, but yeah, he wanted to be a poet is what he wanted to be. And, you know, I think he figured rock and roll was one way to get his lyrics out there and have people hear them. But along the way there, he fell in love with being on stage and being the front man.
What was your relationship with being on stage?
Oh, shit. Hang on.
It's all right. I can hear you.
Okay. Mostly I like to hide in the back, you know. I was like super shy, and, you know, I was content just to kind of be one of the band. And you know, there weren't that many guitar hero types back then, except for Chuck Berry, who I really loved. But you know, I wasn't much of a singer, and so I like to be in the background, you know.
Did and you're from LA, as we discussed, and we're talking about Jim Morrison's parents. How did your parents take this crazy stardom that you had at such a, I mean, starting at, I guess, 21, pretty much, right?
Well, 20 maybe. Well, they were into it. They loved it. I was lucky. My parents were very open-minded, and you know, of course, my dad wanted me to be an engineer like him. He was like a rocket scientist kind of guy at Northrop, and he'd gone to UCLA and Caltech. So you know, so I was actually at UCLA at the time, and you know, once we started getting to be really popular around LA, I just kind of quit. So I didn't tell my dad, but I just kind of stopped going to classes, and I said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." And once Light My Fire came out, my parents were like the proudest, happiest parents ever, you know.
Was
and they
that
followed us. They followed us around Europe, and you know, they used to come to all the shows. They loved it.
the everyone met at UCLA? Is that correct?
Pretty much. I mean, Jim and Ray met at UCLA. You know, they were in the film school, and I was just in regular UCLA, so I didn't really know them that well yet. And John Densmore went to Valley State, Northridge. So,
Oh, Cal State Northridge.
yeah. But
There's a night.
I met
Yeah.
him in high school at Uni High.
Oh, yeah. Is that University High? Is that? Yeah.
University High.
And that's is that Santa Monica or Palisades?
West
Something like
LA.
that?
West LA.
So, you guys all come together, and you don't have a bass player, which is pretty unique for a band.
True. Yeah. The only other band that didn't have a bass player that we knew was the Seeds.
I don't even know the Seeds.
You don't know the Seeds? Come on.
I'm
Mr.
trying.
Farmer, let me water your crops. What was their main song? Shit.
I don't know. You'd have to tell me what the Seeds
Sky
hit was.
Saxon and the Seeds. Sky Saxon, you never heard of him?
God, it sounds sort of familiar. I know the Human Beings song group.
Yeah,
I go pretty deep in some of those 60s like one-hit wonders, but I don't know the Seeds.
Well, how old are you?
I'm 55.
Okay, yeah, you probably wouldn't know, because they had like 2 songs on the radio, and that was it, you know.
I don't think they
cool.
made it.
They were very cool. You should look them up.
I don't know if the Seeds made it to, you know, the oldie station. So they have Can't Seem to Make You Mine, I guess. Oh,
Yeah.
Pushing Too Hard? Is that a Seeds song?
Pushing Too Hard.
Oh, that's a hit.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pushing too hard on me, too hard. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I know all.
They don't have a bass. The guy played just the low end of a keyboard for the bass. Ray had this little piano bass thing that he would stick on top of the organ, and that was pretty cool. It was a Fender piano bass. Had I think 18 keys or something like that.
Yeah.
And, the cool thing was that, you know, it sort of gave us our own sound, because, you know, Ray had to play that bass with his left hand, so he just kind of put it on automatic pilot. So the bass lines were very repetitive and kind of hypnotic. You know, that kind of gave us a hypnotic quality that a lot of bands didn't have.
Yeah. And now as I listen to Pushing Too Hard by the Seeds in my head, although Chris, you're going to have to pull that up, but I can hear similarities now. I realize that, yeah, that had that sound to it.
Yeah.
So when you guys would record, was there ever a bass player in there for a session?
Yeah, we always had a bass player on the records, mostly, except for the first album. On the first album, we played everything with the piano bass, and then afterwards, I overdubbed a real bass on a couple of the songs, like Soul Kitchen and 20th Century Fox, and a couple other ones. Backdoor Man.
So you played the bass on
I
those.
overdubbed it later. And then there was a guy named what's his name? He did Light My Fire. Larry Knechtel.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Knechtel was a studio musician type guy. He could play anything, and he just copied exactly what Ray played on the piano bass.
I think we have a little bit of Pushing Too Hard by the Seeds. Let's see if I can hear that.
Oh, cool.
It's the song. Yeah.
Pushing too hard, or pushing on me. You're pushing too hard, or what you want me to be. You're pushing too hard about the things you say. You're pushing too hard every night and day. You're pushing too hard on me.
Too hard. Yes. Okay. All right. Good. That's where all is right in the world. I know that song. I never knew it was the Seeds. It always sounded very British invasion-y to me.
Yeah, but they weren't. They were from the Valley, I think.
It's funny how all those, how, you know, in the Beatles and the British invasion came around, it was just everyone was copying that sound. Not the Doors. The Doors did not do that.
We actually, you know, our favorite bands were from England, you know, like Them, you know, Van Morrison's band, and who else? The Animals, Eric Burdon, the Animals.
Eric Burdon, the Animals, right.
And not to say we copied them, but we liked them a lot. We wanted to be like them.
The Beatles had just got here when you guys were getting together, right?
Yeah, they'd been, a couple of years. They'd been going a couple of years by then.
So let's go back then. Let's talk about Light My Fire. So that song blew up the band. And the good news is that a whole bunch of other great songs came after that song as well. So you guys were able to obviously sustain it. The movie depicts how the creation of that song went down, but you were there. So how did it really go down?
Well, it was, you know, I actually talked to Oliver about that scene, you know, and how it should be. And of course, he didn't really listen to me. But, you know, I actually wrote the song at home one day. You know, that was the first song I wrote for the Doors, because up until then, you know, Jim, this was early on, and Jim was the writer. He, you know, he had about 10 songs that he had written early on, and Ray helped him flesh them out, you know, like Moonlight Drive, and Hello, I Love You was one of the early ones. Can't remember what else. But then at one point, Jim says, hey, you know what? We don't have enough originals, because we've been doing cover songs in our sets. You know, we play Gloria or, you know, all the songs of the day, Otis Redding stuff. And so he says, hey, we need more originals. Why do I have to write all the songs? Why don't you guys write some? So we went home and tried to write, and I was the only one that actually did it. But I said, what should I write about? And he told me, write about something universal, you know, something that won't go out of style too quick, you know what I'm saying? So I said, okay, in that case, I will write something about earth, air, fire, or water. So I picked fire because I always loved that song by the Stones, Play with Fire.
Yeah, it's a good song.
You know that one?
Yeah, there's all that's a good song, and then there's also a song called Fire by like Arthur whatever, the Mysterians or whatever. Arthur Brown, the Mysterious World of Arthur Brown, or the something world of Arthur Brown.
Yeah, but that was after Light My Fire.
Right.
And then
that was after.
Jimi Hendrix had his Fire song too, as well.
Right. Right.
But, I was the first person ever to put the three words, light my fire, together. Nobody
really?
Nobody had ever said those three words before. So I don't know where that came from, but.
So you went home and you wrote that song.
I did. So, and up until that point, our songs were all kind of very simple songs. They're all blues, very blues based, 3-chord songs. So I said, okay, I'm going to write something that's got a lot of chords in it. A lot of trickies. And Light My Fire doesn't really sound tricky or anything, but if you count the number of chords in there, there's something like 20 different chords in that song. Just the intro alone has about 7 chords. It's that da 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 da, which goes G, D, F, A flat. I mean B flat, E flat, A flat, A. That's just the intro. And actually, that wasn't the intro to begin with. That was only to get out of the instrumental back to the song. And it was actually Paul Rothchild's idea. Paul Rothchild, who produced most of our albums, he says, hey, that's a great part. Let's put it in the beginning, as an intro. And not only that, we use it at the very end to end the song. So it's actually in 3 places in the song.
So anyway, did they immediately know what you had when you came back the next day with that song?
They liked it. They liked it a lot. And that part we're talking about, which became the intro, that was just chords to begin with. Little by little, Ray put in that Bach stuff. Right. It took months to come up with it. In the movie, he does that in in 20 minutes. He says, okay, you guys go out to the beach and I'll figure this part out.
Yeah. So I think they call it artistic license, but it's weird when it's artistic license on an artistic endeavor. You know what I mean? It's like,
especially after I told him how it went, he didn't listen.
Yeah. Well, I've heard Oliver's a pretty headstrong guy.
Yeah, he is. In fact, what he did was he had a good writer for the movie. God, what's his name? I'll think of it in a minute. But he never used any of it. He just wrote it himself. All the dialogue and stuff is actually Oliver Stone.
Randall Johnson. I'm looking at the bottom of my screen.
Yeah, Randy Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for what it's worth, I love the movie. I had no idea what part of it was accurate, what part of it wasn't.
A lot better if we used Randy's script, believe me.
Well, I still enjoyed it. All right, let me hit stamps.com here. You want to avoid the crowds, especially, now you want to avoid the post office. Stamps.com. For over 10 years, we've used these guys to send out merch and books and paperwork and everything else, whether you're a small business and you're sending out invoices, or you're an online seller and you're shipping products. You need to work at home these days, and you need stamps.com. Buy and print, U.S. postage, any letter, any package, 24/7, and do it at home. 5 cents off every first-class stamp and 40% off shipping rates, and now up to 62% worth of discounts on UPS services as well. So let's go to stamps.com. They got a special offer, 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale, no long-term commitment. Just go to stamps.com, click on the microphone, top of the homepage, and type in Adam. That is stamps.com. Enter Adam. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk to the great Robby Krieger right after this.
In the spirit of Murrow, Jennings, Cronkite, here's another great moment in local news.
Thousands of rolls of toilet paper went up in flames in Texas today when that big rig just crashed and burned. The truck driver wasn't hurt, but all of that in-demand toilet paper gone.
That's precious cargo right now.
That's a great moment in local news. Now, back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Robby Krieger is here. He's got his guitar in his hands. The Ritual Begins at Sundown is the name of the first album in 10 years from Robby Krieger. Website, robbykrieger.com. And the full album's going to drop on August 14th. And you can go to Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, YouTube, and check it out. Hey, have you been in love with the guitar your entire, essentially from 14 on?
Yeah, exactly. My friend had a guitar. Bob Wire was his name. We call him Barb Wire. And he had a guitar at his house, and I always used to go over there and I would pick it up. And before that, I wanted to play trumpet because my friend Loring Hughes, he played at school. He played the taps, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody loved that. And
wait a minute, that's not the taps. That's the
Reveille.
Yeah, Reveille. Yeah, they used to play. So I went to Walter Reed Elementary in the San Fernando Valley, and I think they would play that over the loudspeaker. It was probably recording.
You didn't have a guy actually playing it?
No, it wasn't like Santa Anita or something cool like the race.
We had a guy that played it every day, and he was the best trumpet player at school and all that. So I wanted to do that. So I took trumpet lessons and stuff. Never got good enough.
Yeah, I don't know what you would have done. I guess you could have joined Herb Alpert or something like that. You certainly probably wouldn't be in the Doors with the trumpet. So you guys all meet essentially at UCLA, or most of you are going to UCLA. Some of you are going to Cal State Northridge.
Well, actually, three of us met at the Maharishi's first meditation meeting in LA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was like this friend of mine, his brother had gone to India to search for a guru, right? And he talked to all these gurus, and this one guy he loved was Maharishi, and so he talked Maharishi into coming to LA to start the movement, you know, in the United States. And so this meeting was at Peter Wallace's parents' house in the Palisades, and there might have been 10 or 15 people there. And out of those 15 people, there was me, John, and Ray that later became the Doors. So that was pretty fortuitous.
And did you guys have discussions at that meeting? Was there some discussion of music?
No, Maharishi basically was the speaker. You know, he was talking about the meditation and all that. And then after the meeting, Ray comes up to John and he goes, "Hey, I heard you're a drummer." And John goes, "Yeah." He says, "Well, we need a drummer. My brother's band is called Rick and the Ravens, and the drummer just quit. So do you want to come and try out, you know?" And so he says, "Oh, okay, yeah." And my friend here's a guitar player. He says, "Well, we don't need a guitar player because my brother plays guitar." So John and Ray hooked up that way. And then John brought me in a little later. Just the three of us showing up at that one meeting was pretty amazing, I would think.
Well, what are your thoughts on things like that? Do you think that speaks to a higher power or an alternate source in the universe or something, or is it all just?
Yeah, I do. It's definitely something to it. There's just too many coincidences that happen for it to be just random chance. You know what I'm saying?
Has there ever been discussion about replacing Jim Morrison, or was there discussions about replacing Jim Morrison?
Well, you mean before he died?
No, sorry. After he died.
Not at first. You know, we actually did 2 albums as the Doors without Jim. And there's actually some pretty good stuff on there with Ray and I singing, not very well. But at that point we said, Jesus, maybe we should try to, you know, we knew we couldn't replace Jim, but we got to do something, you know. So we all decided to move to London, which we did. everybody moved to London, and we were going to look for a singer. So we had a couple of guys that we looked at, and then after a couple of months, Ray just decided, hey, man, this ain't going to work. And so he went back home, and John and I, and that was it for the Doors. And John and I stayed over there, and we actually formed this band called the Butts Band, which was pretty cool.
Was everyone financially set for life because of all the amazing commercial success, or did you guys own publishing and that kind of stuff? Did you get ripped off by the label?
We did, but we were lucky because we had a girlfriend of ours, that Donna, who knew this lawyer, Abe Summers, and we were also lucky because we only had a 3-year contract with Elektra. So, about the third year, they were, doing pretty well with the Doors, and they wanted to keep us. So, when we signed with them, we signed our publishing away for $5,000. And that's
Wow.
what all bands did back then, that
Right.
was just a matter of course. That's, hey, you need fucking $5,000 and you're going to do it, and we were just lucky to get it back. They signed us back, and hey, to do that, we need our publishing back. And they were very good about it because a lot of companies wouldn't have done that.
So you guys do own the publishing.
Yes, we do.
So was that
We split it 4 ways, by the way, which was Jim's idea, because like I said, at first he was writing a lot of the songs, so most of the songs, but he says, hey man, I want it to be everybody contribute to the writing, and we're going to split everything 4 ways, because he knew that we wouldn't put up with his shit unless that was the case.
Oh, so it wasn't because he was a humanitarian, it was just that.
A little of both. He really didn't care about money. He honestly did not. He was one guy that I can say that really didn't give a shit about money. All his life he lived in motels or at or girls' house. He never had a house.
Was part of Ray's decision to return to the United States without a new singer and sort of effectively end the Doors, was that financial? I mean, he was okay financially. I mean,
yeah, we were okay.
He didn't need to work.
We were not rolling in dough, but at that time, but it was, the main reason, to be honest, was that his wife, Dorothy, was pregnant at the time, and she started going nuts, how some people do with the hormones and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she really wanted to go back home and have the baby there, and which, can't blame her. And at the same time, John and I were going off musically a little bit different direction than Ray. Ray wanted to be more jazz, and we wanted to be more rock. And so it was kind of a combination of all those things.
Did you, when you looked at people to replace Jim, was anybody any good, or was it one of these things where nobody could replace him? I mean, what was the mindset? Would it have never worked?
Yeah, that's a good question. The truth is, we really didn't even get to try out more than 1 or 2 guys before Ray decided to break it up. We thought about Paul McCartney. That'd be great. God, he's a bass player too,
Right.
But we didn't think he would go for it.
Well, at the time, the Beatles had just about broken up right about then, right?
Exactly. That would have been great,
Was there ever an actual conversation with Paul McCartney?
No. Too hard to get a hold of.
How does it work? I'm very curious because I always hear a lot of catalog talk, like own the catalog or the publishing rights or all that kind of stuff. And the Doors have so many amazing songs, and I feel like they're great soundtracks and movies, or needle drops, I guess, as they call them in movies and stuff like that. how does it work? Is there a monthly check one gets from these entities? If somebody says, I'm making a movie, I want to use it, put a Doors song in, somebody contact you? How does it work?
They might try to contact me, but we always has to go through our manager, who now is a guy named Jeff Jampol, and then we have a publisher as well, a guy named Randall Wixon. But the fact is that John, Ray, and I, and the estate of Jim Morrison, who's split into two entities. One is from his wife, Pam, who died a couple of years after Jim. So her parents or sister is in charge of that. And then the other part of that entity is Jim's sister, Ann, and his brother, Andy, who control 1/8 each, I suppose.
Sorry, Jim's brother and sister?
Yeah, exactly.
Who are, were they older or younger?
See, I think they were a little older. No, maybe the sister was younger. I can't remember, but not too far apart, Andy Morrison, he's kind of a cool guy. He like moved to Hawaii way back in the day, and he's just over there. And Ann lives here in LA, and her son Dylan is sort of taken over the catalog stuff, for them.
His what is the relationship, if any, with Jim Morrison's brother and sister? Do you talk? Do you get along? Do you?
Yeah, I mean, we don't hang out or nothing, but mostly at business meetings and stuff, we see them, and that's a good relationship.
Because the Doors have generated, I'm guessing, into the hundreds of millions of dollars over the years, right? Is that an accurate statement?
Oh, I wish it was that much, but maybe I would say maybe 80 at least.
There's
probably... the good thing is it keeps going. It's
right.
Still, we still get pretty damn good checks every quarter.
So let's, there's a couple things about $80 million. One is when you guys were hanging out and you were 19, $80 million sounded insane. On the other hand, houses in the neighborhood you grew up in are going for $4.7 million now, which also sounds utterly insane, right?
Yeah. I mean, I bought this house, my house here in up in West LA, Benedict Canyon. It was 3.2 acres. I bought it for $97,000 back in 1970, I think it was, and it's appreciated a lot.
It's got to be worth. Well, it could be $5 million. I don't know. I mean, look. I bought my first house up Beechwood Canyon under the Hollywood sign, and this was in the later 90s, and it was $350,000. So stuff has gone up an insane amount, but we digress. So as far as the Doors go, Jim dies in 1970, I believe.
71.
Oh, 71. Sorry. And maybe the Doors aren't, and then a great album comes out with so many great. Did you guys do Riders on the Storm? Is that the last song that you guys recorded?
It's one of the last. I'm not sure if it was the very last, but yeah, that LA Woman, Riders on the Storm.
I remember I was installing closets in the mid 80s. I was working on a house in like Reseda in like a condominium. And it's back when DJs, when DJ was a job and they'd tell you stories and they would talk up a song. And Riders on the Storm had such a long beginning, right? So the DJ was just talking all the way through that. And he was explaining, and again, I was, youngish and working installing closets, you know. But I was talking about this is the last song they recorded, and they added the thunder and the rain to it, and Jim Morrison passed away before this came out. I just remember hearing it all back
Uh-huh.
in a real consumable way, because it had the music underneath it and it had the DJ telling the story. And I remember thinking, wow, how eerie, you know, just you hear the beginning of that song, you think about it it dropped after Jim Morrison passed away, and that, according to the DJ, was the last recording with the Doors. But
Yeah. It might have been. It might have been. I know one of the last things we did on that album was to add the thunder to the song, and it's funny because that thunder was actually recorded by Bruce Botnick, who was our engineer, about 10 years before that, because Elektra Records used to make these albums of sound effects, you know, and the thunder was one of those sound effects.
so they had like a Foley department or something where they had sound effects,
Right.
and he'd have to go out and record that. And so that was just in the library.
Right, exactly.
On a reel, I guess, back then. Certainly. Now it'd be in everyone's everyone's computer. So let's try to figure out sort of a Doors popularity chart. So everything went nuts probably after Jim Morrison died, but then the 80s were the worst time ever. So people started listening to Duran Duran and probably a little less classic rock. But obviously then a resurgence with the movie The Doors. Where are we now? I mean, you get the checks on a quarterly basis. I don't need to know how much they are, but what I'm curious is, like, how popular are the Doors in 2020 versus 1985?
Oh, a lot more.
A lot more.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, in the late 70s and the 80s, Doors were way down on the list. You know, we figured it would just peter out and stop. That's pretty much how I viewed it. You know, and the only one that didn't, I have to say, was Ray Manzarek. Man, he never gave up the ghost. He would be talking up the Doors forever. You know, he didn't care if it was a guy at a high school wanted him to speak on the radio for a college radio station, whatever. He kept beating that thing, and, you know, always talking about how Jim might not have died really. And, you know, he just, he was beating the horse, the dead horse. And, you know, John didn't like that, you know, and a lot of people didn't, but I have to say it might have kept the thing going, you know, enough for the fact that Danny Sugarman was interested enough to write that book, which later made the movie from that book.
Well, it's interesting in that here you are, you know, Jim dies in 71, the band is over in the very early 70s. By the time we get from there to the later 70s, we're in disco at this point. Nothing further away from the Doors than the Village People. So a full disco.
Which was great for the Doors because, you know, because there was nothing really good on the radio, that created a space for guys like Jim Ladd and you know, some of these FM stations back then to play the Doors and play, you know, stuff, you know, Bob Dylan, whatever, anything but disco and the crap that was coming out, you know.
Right. And then it goes into the horrible 80s, a lot of horrible 80s stuff, a lot of synthesizer and symphonic drums, and the opposite of music, kind of Flock of Seagulls and all that shit. So it gets really bad. And then you must be thinking somewhere around 86, 15 years after Jim died, this thing's just going to coast to a stop, and sooner than later.
Yeah, and you know, I wasn't playing Doors songs. I mean, I was going into jazz and jazz fusion and stuff like that. So I hadn't played a Doors song probably for 20 years. And then what happened was there sprang up some of these Doors tribute bands.
Mm-hmm.
There was one called Crystal Ship, in which the guitar player is now my guitar tech, Forrest Penner. And Dave Brock had this group, Wild Child, and they were starting to do really well. You know, they were filling up places like the Whiskey and even bigger places. And so I would go and sit in with them once in a while just for fun. And I said, God, I forget how much fun this used to be, you know. So little by little, I started playing more Doors songs in my set. When I would play, I would do instrumental versions of them and stuff like that. And then came the book.
Do you keep in touch with Ray and John?
I would, but Ray's dead.
God damn it. Sorry, I forgot he died. When did he pass away?
Like 3 years ago.
Oh, I must have heard that. Sorry. But if he was alive, would you be in touch with him?
Oh, yeah. In fact, you know, the year 2000 or so, I was, like I said, I was doing more Doors songs in my set. And I started really missing doing the Doors. So I called Ray and I said, hey, man, why don't we go out and play some Doors songs, you know? And, you know, little by little, he got into the idea. So we called John, and John didn't want to do it. He said, no, you guys go ahead and be the Doors. I'm done with that, you know? And so Ray and I, you know, we had these guys that wanted to sing, you know. There was this show on TV. It was called the VH1 Storytellers.
Yeah.
So we had about 10 guys that would sing a Doors song, different guys. So we had Ian Astbury, who ended up playing with Ray and I, and a guy from Stone Temple Pilots. And there was really a bunch of good singers, you know. Guy from, what's his name? Anyway, Perry Farrell.
Sure.
So, you know, it was starting to look like, hey, maybe now's the time we could replace Jim after 30 years, you know, because, you know, obviously nobody would be as good as Jim, but these guys are very much influenced by Jim, you know, especially Ian Astbury, especially. And that worked out pretty well. Ray and I played for probably 15 years together before he passed away.
Yeah, I'm looking at Scott Weiland's Stone Temple Pilots. Scott passed not too long ago. Scott Stapp. When John Densmore said you guys go out without me, what was he saying? Was he just saying good luck, or was he saying fuck you, or was he saying I'm tired? Like what do you think that was?
Kind of all three, you know. He and Ray didn't get along anyway, and you know, he had tinnitus really bad with his ears, so he didn't want to play loud music. And so he said, you guys go ahead and do it, you know. And so we ended up getting, for a drummer, we got what's his name, Stuart Copeland.
Oh, well, not too shabby, from the Police, right?
Yeah. So I think John kind of got a little jealous about that.
Is Ray? What kind of guy was Ray? I mean, did he stay the course his whole life? I mean, sort of, kind of out there, interesting, you know, poet, whatever. Counterculture guy. I mean,
he was a very, very intelligent guy, you know, very smart, and he was very artistic, and he read a lot, you know, like Jim did. You know, they both had read every Nietzsche and all that stuff, and but like I said, he was older than us. He was like 27, I think, when we started, and you know, he had Dorothy. They were pretty much married, even though not on paper yet. But so, and Jim actually lived with them for a while when, just after UCLA, they had this little 2-bedroom place, and so he was living with them, and that's right when we started. And Ray, very, very different kind of a guy. I mean, yeah, I think the main thing about Ray was his sense of humor was very, very dry sense of humor. So that would get him in trouble a lot. People would take it the wrong way and stuff. But the funny thing was when Jim was around, Ray was kind of his personality, which was super strong personality, type A, was held in check by Jim. So we never really saw the real Ray until Jim had passed on.
And what was the real Ray?
Like I said, type A personality, very bossy, very, he had total confidence in himself, even though there's not much reason to be at some point. But, so when he came home, from England, when John and I we stayed there, he came home and he formed another Doors, essentially, band. I forget what it was called, but they were horrible, and he kept telling John and I, well, we're going to be the next Doors, it's no worries, don't worry about that. We're going to be the #1 band in the country. And that lasted for about 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, could it go any other way? I know it could, but I mean, isn't this always kind of the story? I mean, you guys relatively seem to have gotten on or able to sort of have your post-Doors life better than so many other bands out there that have had so much difficulty, tragedy. I mean, it's so baked into just about every band where, people aren't talking anymore. You guys have had...
I mean, we had our problems, believe me. I mean, maybe you didn't hear about the lawsuit that John sued Ray and I for using the name.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, was John? Look, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but he was.
John's still alive. Ray's still alive.
I'm sorry. Now,
some people.
It's the worst job of hosting. Jim Ladd. Is Jim Ladd still alive? He's going to be pissed if he hears this. God damn it! I was probably listening to him when he was telling me about Riders on the Storm. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, I just spoke with him. He's up in Sacramento.
Jim Ladd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Famous DJ, SoCal, probably KMET and then KLOS. I don't remember.
I think it was KLOS, and then he moved to where was it? K Rock. He was K Rock for a while. Anyway, he was like he was our biggest fan. The Doors were his thing, and he loved Deep Purple and stuff, but he loved the Doors, and he never got to meet Jim, unfortunately, but he was our biggest fan and still is. He plays the Doors more than anybody.
Do you have a favorite Doors song?
Oh gosh, not really. Lately it's been LA Woman.
And do you ever find yourself listening to the Doors?
No, because I play the stuff so much live, The only reason I listen to it is say, wait a minute, how did I do that guitar part on such and such? So I'll go back and check it out.
Does it feel like it was just a different life? I mean, does it?
No, it feels like it was just yesterday because, like I said, I play the stuff so much still that even though I didn't play it for 25 years, the minute I started back up again, it was pretty much nonstop.
I guess we're coming to the end here. I should tell people once again, The Ritual Begins at Sundown is the album. It's got bumped a little bit, but it's a full album's going to be out.
Yeah, the album cover is one of my paintings.
Oh,
yeah.
I got to see that. I didn't know you were an artist. Available August 14th, and you can get that at Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, YouTube, and all that.
And it's
Yeah.
coming out in vinyl. So
Oh, that's beautiful. I didn't know you painted.
yeah. If you want to see some of my paintings, you could go to Art for a Cause, where we sell some of my painting set for charities.
I shall. So artforacause.com or .org or
I think it's .org. I can't remember, but it'll come up. Just
people
Robby
can find that. Robby, this has been very interesting to somebody who just sort of knew the Doors from 5 miles away. I just watched you guys. I always loved your music. I had to mature into the Doors, I must say. I wasn't a big Doors guy when I was like in high school, but as I got older, I started to sort of mature into the Doors.
Who was your favorite in high school?
Well, I had a weird relationship with music because I liked guys like Graham Parker and John Hyatt and the Pretenders and bands like that when I was in high school. A little less of the REO Speedwagons and Led Zeppelins, and I was a little less of the pop mainstream rock and a little more. I didn't know anyone else who was listening to Graham Parker or John Hyatt when I was 15 or 16, or even like an Elvis Costello. What guitar?
This is a 60 Les Paul Sunburst.
Wow.
Don't see many of these around.
What's that guitar worth?
I would hate to say, but it's got to be, at least $250,000 or more.
Is the sound of it, can you really tell the difference in the sound?
I mean, I can, but it's not much. It's not really the sound that much as just the way it's built and the flamey maple.
It's so beautiful. It's such a work of art.
Yeah, exactly what it is. Work of art.
Play a lick. See if we can. I'll tell you, it doesn't have to be. You don't need to play anything from the Doors catalog. Just play a lick, and I'll see how fast I can get it.
All right.
I have no idea what song this is.
That's a jazz song. I don't even know which one it is.
Play something from the Seeds. The Doors. All right. Yeah. All right. It's the Doors.
If you want to see me play some Doors on my website or the Doors website, I'm starting to do little guitar lessons.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So we put out Moonlight Drive, I think, came out today. And I have Roadhouse Blues on there. I'm going to do a couple more of those next week.
Play a couple of Doors riffs. Let's see how fast I can get them.
All right, how about this?
Love Me 2 Times. All right.
Okay. And then there was the one I was just playing. Did you get this one?
Yeah, Moonlight. Is it 20th Century? Oh, God, what's it? Yeah.
Fox. Yeah.
Right, 20th Century Fox. All right. Try a few more. See how fast I can get these.
How about
Roadhouse Blues? Is that all right? 1 and 5, 5 and 1. I would say 1 out of. Sorry, is that no? I'll honky. Oh God, I'll be your whatever man. Let's see. It's
no, that's Backdoor Man.
Backdoor Man. Is it Backdoor Man?
Yeah. Backdoor
All right.
Man.
One more. I want to go out on top here. That's 1 and. Oh God, is that 1 and 5? Is it 1 and 5? What is?
5 to 1.
What's that?
5 to 1.
5 to 1. Is that 5 to 1?
Yeah, you almost had it.
Damn, I did 1 and 5. All right, one more.
One more. Oh God, I'm running out of ideas here.
Oh, you guys had 25 hits.
Okay, how about let's see.
Love her madly. All right. All right. We're going out on top. Thanks, Robby Krieger. That was a real treat for me.
All right, man. It's good talking to you.
I
So
hope we can do it again soon.
This is going to be on tomorrow then?
Yep.
Okay.
Listen and enjoy. All right, let me hit Life Lock. Life Lock. Oh, break on through?
No.
Wait. Oh, come on, touch me.
Yeah.
Come on, now touch me, then. Was touched? Did Jim hate Touch Me like he thought in the movie?
No, actually, before before it was Touch Me, it was Hit Me.
Oh,
Hit
really?
Me. Yeah, because I wrote the song about a game of blackjack, where you go, hit me, baby.
Right. Wow.
He thought people might take him up on it and hit him on stage or something. So,
right.
Touch Me actually was better anyway.
Great horns in that great arrangement.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Is it sort of accurate to say you could write the pop songs and they wrote the esoteric songs?
You could say that. I mean, most of the radio songs were mine, but I wrote some esoteric ones too.
What was your most esoteric Doors song?
Well, actually, there's one called "Yes, the River Knows," which is about water. I write about earth, air,
Right.
fire, water, right? So that's a water song, and that was on the Morrison Hotel album, and that is actually on my new album, an instrumental version of that. Yes, the River Knows.
We'll go out and check that out. All right. I will bid you adieu. Thank you for joining us, and I will hit Life Lock here before there's a lot.
You want to see my studio?
All right. I'm going to pot down Robby for 1 second there. LifeLock, beware of fake products out there, phony stock deals, fabricated emails, texts, social media posts, playing off the coronavirus fears. They steal your money. They steal your information. Protect yourself with LifeLock. Scammers could ask for donations for potential victims. They're always trying to steal your identity. Identity thieves are getting smarter all the time. Protect yourself, especially during tax season, when there's so much private information out there being exchanged. Good thing there's LifeLock, which detects a wide range of identity threats, like your social security number for sale on the dark web, right, Dawson?
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses at LifeLock and see threats you might miss on your own. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head to LifeLock.com. Use promo code Adam. That's promo code Adam at LifeLock.com for up to 25% off.
Hey, Robby, thanks for the tour, and thanks for the fun today.
All right, you got it.
We'll talk soon. Thank you, my
All
friend.
right.